everyone, welcome to another groove breakdown. I'm Fenichel. For this one we're going to take a look at Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. It's an old tune from the 80s, something I've covered with some of my cover bands in the past, and I actually had a question from one of my students who had seen me play it. Basically, I changed the groove a little bit. I don't do it the exact same way you hear it on the studio version, and the reason for that is if you watch Tears for Fears do it live, there's a shaker going. They have a loop going that keeps like a kind of vibe going throughout the whole thing. Playing with a trio, a smaller group, I didn't have a loop or anything set up. So what I needed to do is find a way to get that feeling of the shaker, but have that incorporated into the beat. So I'm going to break down this groove based on that version, my live version of the groove. So for all you people that are watching this video and you're like, that's not the exact way that it's done in the song. Yes, I know it's not the exact way, but in lieu of having some kind of a loop in the background, this was my solution for getting through that. Now, once again, if you listen to the original groove, which I'm not sure if it's a sample or if it's actually recorded in the studio, but it's a much simpler drum part. There is that shaker loop that's happening. It's quarter note triplets off the hi-hat, 2 and 4 on the snare drum, and just a 1 and 3 on the bass drum. Then, of course, the bass, which is like a synth pad type of thumping bass, gives you that feeling of the shuffle. You lose all that if you just end up playing it very simply. So this is what their drummer would do live. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very simple drum part. But if you try to do that in a small band setting, you don't get all those little bells and whistles and it doesn't push or fill in the groove. So let's go ahead and just take a look at my version of this groove at tempo. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the same groove really slow. Next, I want to go ahead and break it down piece by piece, starting with the hi-hat part. Now, if you notice, we have this down, up, down, up, down, up, back and forth feeling. That's going to simulate that shaker. Again, if you notice, this is the same as, so here's just the hi-hat part, very slowly. Next, let's go ahead and add the backbeat to that. Now, talking about adding the bass drum part, again, it's very simple in the studio version. You just have a 1, 2, 3, 4. But the bass is that thumping bass line. So if you don't have a bass that has that very thumping, attacky type of bass, I feel like it's better to fill all that in. So I'm basically doing a shuffle pattern. 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, and I'm keeping that going. I've seen other guys go 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1. That's fine too. But I like to keep that constant shuffle because it just gives that extra oomph to the bass. So let's go ahead now and add that bass to the hi-hat and backbeat. Now, putting those all together, that gives you your entire groove. Now the challenge turns into how do we put those fills in there? Now, if you notice, there's a lot of really cool fills that they're doing throughout the song. Very untraditional for drum fills. Just a series of like stuff like that. So the idea now is to be able to throw in those fills, the ba-ba, ba-ba-ba, without losing the flow of that shaker or the bass drum pattern. Because if you listen to the tune, that performs like a loop. You hear that shaker throughout the whole song, you hear that thumping on the bass. So I want to maintain that flow so it doesn't sound like something drops out. Again, if you watch the video or you watch them live, the drummer just goes ahead and plays it on the snare drum. But we don't have that luxury if you don't have all that loop and stuff happening. So we're going to try to figure out how to add those fills without stopping any of the other stuff. So up to speed, I went ahead and designed this little exercise where I'm just going to keep that feeling. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and That's going to be our fill. Basically, that's going to cover every version of this fill that he does throughout the song. So just to get the coordination down, you just want to practice playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that last has a crash with it. Let's give that a shot up to tempo, back and forth. Great. Now let's go ahead and take that same fill and break it all the way down so you can figure out how to put all those things against everything that's happening. This gets a little tricky. Let's give it a shot. Very good. So now you should have everything that you need to play this song live. Basically, you could do all the fills that are coming in if you have that exercise down, and of course the groove comes in and out, and it stays pretty much like a loop throughout the song. So once you have this stuff together, you pretty much got everything you need to keep going. So that's going to wrap up my spin on this really cool song from the 80s, song that I grew up with, so I enjoy playing it and figuring it out. Something a little different. And I also want to remind you guys to check out the drummersalmanac.com blog. Every Tuesday I come out with a new lesson or a new groove breakdown. Definitely follow us there. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. And I encourage you to do that. Stick with us, let us know what you think, and give me your suggestions. I'll see you guys in the comments.